we're gonna have the committee meeting. We've extended the committee meeting to be a committee meeting for 30 minutes and then the committee of the whole for 30 minutes. But Gina, that won't inhibit your 5:50 declared. We have a public hearing on a CDBG grant, if I got those letters right. And since it's already declared to be at 5:50, we'll still have it at 5:50. No one will come, and then we'll continue on with our business. So I asked Stephanie to print this little packet. It's on your desk, the first committee meeting of 2024. And pretty much on the agenda today is the Rules of Procedure Committee, which is my committee. Pretty much Mr. Marticello suggested that the chair or the deputy mayor have the rules of procedure and finance because they kind of run the budget as well. We go through the budget. So they're just some things I want to check with everybody first. Email. Chris and Rich, did you get access to your Outlook?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You have it on your phone? Awesome. I know, like, getting Outlook to work on your phone can be a challenge sometimes.
I had a hero to help me.
Yeah, good. Who'd you hear? Oh, Sandy, the clerk. And signed the book. Irene and I haven't signed the book yet.
We'll get there.
And then I did see, do I need to sign this or is this just for my records, my the payroll certification, personnel change? I think you guys got copies of this.
I filed
You see
mine.
this, tell me where she's going?
Well, the mayor signed it. I'm sorry. Well, I'm looking at that. It's asking,
It's your copy.
there's my copy. I don't need to sign it? Okay. All right. Disregard.
No, we just need to sign the book.
Okay, but we don't need to sign that payroll thing that we got.
Yeah.
All right.
That's just a record. That's just a
It's just record. Okay, that's what I figured. All right, let's get it. With the
Do we
same.
want to talk a little bit about the book, Tony signing the book?
We can. I mean, I received a voicemail from Stephanie this morning that there are new officers of the city who get to sign the oath book. And any persons who have not signed should sign right away.
Should I sign?
So that was the other part. So anyone that's been reappointed or reelected, that's beginning a new term of office, I believe should re-sign the book as well.
Okay, great.
Okay, so is that, if all the aldermen have signed already, you're all set?
Yes.
I signed.
Irene and I have it. Probably Jim. So we'll sign tonight.
Okay.
Maybe.
Jim did sign, actually.
Oh, okay.
He did.
So maybe we'll have a break and we can bring the book up. All right, and you all know where mailboxes are, so that, I just kind of wanted to see if all of that was all set up for everybody. Then the actual meeting agenda, I thought it would be helpful for like Irene and I to talk about how we run through the agenda, because like the first meeting is like trial by fire. We just throw you all in and we're like, hey, just say yes or say no. Like there's nothing really to say no to in an organizational meeting, but it would be nice if like we went over some things. I was happy that I had like previous experience with legislative bodies on my first meeting because I was overwhelmed as well. So you can see on the council, and we'll go back to the agenda here. This is the standard, which is based on the charter. I had to go back and forth. The packet, the committee packet, this third page takes the proceedings of the council right out of the charter. So you've got everything right there. If you want to look at it again, it's also online. So that is kind of where this actually comes from. It's listed right in there, as far as the salute the flag, the roll call, agenda, proclamations. Anybody's welcome to put a proclamation in at any time. We've done them, for community organizations, individuals, the mayor honors people. I've done Ovarian Cancer Month, Breast Cancer Month. We've done LGBTQ plus Community Month. So anything that you would like to do, the clerk can help you with those, with examples of that. they don't have to be really technically written, so other than having whereases in there, you can make it descriptive and it doesn't need to go to Tony or anything like that because it's largely ceremonial. Sometimes we'll have presentations and communications. The mayor will kind of bring those up. And then we open for public participation, kind of the privilege of the floor that we give to the community. And they can come and speak for a total of 5 minutes. The chief, the police chief is our parliamentarian as well. So he keeps them to that 5 minutes, or he's here to kind of cut people off. And I had a previous boss that said like that 5 minutes also protects the individual speaking, because after a couple minutes, people can go off the rails, and if you cut them off, sometimes you save them from themselves. So it's important. It's not just because we don't want to hear them for 5 minutes. And sometimes people want to turn it into a question and answer session, which is not what it's meant to be. So while we do answer basic questions, or sometimes we feel bad, for the most part, they're just supposed to speak. And that keeps it from becoming a debate, because that can very easily happen as well. And that's also not why we're here. They can make an appointment with any one of us at any time to answer their questions, or we can connect them. And oftentimes, they do have to say where they live. So if they're in your district, you talk to them afterwards, get them connected to all the places and people that they need. Anything on that, on public participation?
Did you get your business cards ordered?
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, business cards too. You can hand them that too, if you have them. And then the controller's report. Dun, dun, dun. Now, this, and I'm excited to be starting a new year, because there's some questions that I still have out there that we can all like learn together. But I know you do Louise as a controller report for us, and that typically once a month for the big report, or
I'm doing these the second meeting of the month,
okay.
and I've just shifted to a more condensed version. I thought it was just a little more user friendly than the one that I inherited when I started. It takes a really long time to compile, and I thought it was just too much. Sometimes less is more, so I went with something a little like briefer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can you kind of review with us?
So this is essentially a snapshot of where we are at with all 5 of our funds. The city has 5 funds: general fund, water fund, sewer fund, sanitation fund, golf fund. We prepare annual budgets, operating budgets for all of those funds. Okay, the actual amount of the revenue and the expenditures are in the first column. Those were what were, this is the adjusted budget. So what we adopt for the start of the year tends to, evolve with the different things that come up, and, resolutions are submitted for all the changes. So they shouldn't be completely unfamiliar, but adjusted just means as of, the current budget with any resolutions that have been approved since the budget was adopted. And then the actual column is, as of the date of this report, what we actually brought in or spent. So like this report here shows, we're 6 months through the year. So this is, reflects, half of the annual operations for the city for all 5 funds. Revenue is a little tricky because we tend to record the revenue from the fees and the taxes as it looks like it's all collected, but really hasn't been. We just record it all as revenue. I think soon I'm gonna start just showing that a little, break it down and just show what's actually been collected. I have some ideas for making that a little less confusing in the future, but and then I just try to, if there's anything noteworthy that I feel I should point out, I use the last little box in the bottom right corner to reflect that. Right now, last month and this month, I'm just updating the contingency balances. These are the amounts that we put in the budget for the sort of unexpected and unforeseen things that come up. So they're just good numbers to kind of track.
This is awesome that you're sharing this with us halfway through the year. Thank you. I was confused about contingency when I first came on, because to me, like in my personal finances, contingency is just what's in my savings account. But that's not how we budget here. So we have a general fund, And we have contingencies within each budget. So it's not coming out of the general fund every time we pull from contingency, which was something I feared was happening the first few times.
And the state requires us to have contingency.
I believe so, yes.
That's why we have it.
I mean, we do our best to forecast and predict to the best of our ability, but without a crystal ball, there's just always going to be things that come
But I
up.
do love the thought that you're gonna look at cash collect, try and come up with a better way of showing cash collected versus just,
Yeah.
you know.
Because this also, revenue also includes all, people that don't pay,
Mhm.
which we're,
But we're at, this is the 50% mark, so it gives you a chance to take a look at in general, you see something that's, we've spent 70%, we got a problem.
Yeah.
And it's just a good way of narrowing, starting from the top and targeting in, and we get this every month, I like looking at it.
Yeah.
It's very helpful to me.
by much more detail, upon request, that's for sure.
Yeah, Louise is always great at answering any questions that we have on it, but yeah, I like the simple snapshot for those of us that like
Okay.
aren't business.
I also want to just mention that when we're in the process of getting new software, financial software, it's months and months, the process of transitioning to new software, but eventually you will all have access to go in and view, you'll have access to the software and be able to view reports that show all of this in, real time.
Wow. That's very cool. Thank you. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that with us. And then we start the business of the meeting with the resolutions, any old business that we tabled previously to bring up. Doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does. And then we get into new business, the resolutions. So,
I didn't put that in.
okay, we'll do it in the calendar. Yeah.
That's what we do.
Okay, yeah. So you'll see in the next page, here's our meeting starting at 6:30. Old business, we still have the health officer, which I know that the mayor has someone. And at the committee of the whole, we'll go through most of the resolutions that way. Unless something needs like closer committee inspection or something. We talk about it at the committee of the whole. And we review each of these resolutions. You'll notice like last week or last meeting, we talked about, people moved it or it was everything was sponsored pretty much by the mayor or the full council. And so that doesn't always happen. Usually it is sponsored by whoever is the committee chair that falls under. So the department head will talk to you about an issue or something that he or she wants to put on the agenda and ask you to sponsor it. So you'll be the person on there. And then the clerk will read resolution, the title, and then she'll start to read the whole body of the resolution. And some can be very long. These are all very short. As soon as it's moved, she stops reading. So it's up to you kind of how much you want the clerk to read. If it's a 10-page resolution, we don't make her read the whole thing typically. But we usually like for her to read the resolve that talks about the money that is being spent and where it's coming from, the terms, things like that. So you might say like, okay, can you just, she'll read the first introductory one and then you'll say, hey, can you just read the resolve? Or sometimes you make her read, I make her read the whole thing a lot because I'm really annoying. And so it's pretty much up to the person moving it, about what they want to like physically have said on the record to the public, on the screen, all that good stuff. But then after that, I would like to do a pause, after it's moved to open for discussion. That's kind of a procedural thing that was in my old job, where I would just say, is there any discussion on it? And if this is kind of your last chance to convince your colleagues to vote a certain way, if it's a contentious issue, and you would be addressed, you'd raise your hand and say, Alderman Carpenter, and you'd say why you think they should vote for it or against it. If it's a contentious issue, it's also a good time to publicly thank the people who worked on it. I'd like to thank this department. They worked really hard on this. because we'll talk about that in committee, but the actual official meeting, it's nice to have that on the official roll, but it's not something you do a lot, something you do once in a while. And then the clerk calls the roll, typically from the person who moved it, and then on down through the rotation. When you vote, you can explain your vote as well. Again, it's something that you don't typically do, but I would say something like, I'd like to explain my vote against this. And then I give like a quick blurb of like, I really like this company, but I can't vote for this because of X, Y, and Z. And you just move forward. If it's something that you just want to make sure you say why you voted for or against something. Again, doesn't happen a lot, but it's a tool that we can use to really share our thoughts on it, to explain, and show that we've done our due diligence and been thoughtful in our votes. But usually, you know, there's not gonna be a lot of discussion on adopting the last minutes. There's not gonna be a lot of discussion on water treatment plant chemical bids. But if it's necessary, those are the times within a meeting that council members can speak in a way. So I was thinking like that's useful to know. That's a tool. Yeah, we go through the resolutions and I usually call it a night after that. So if we have an executive sessions can be called anytime. It can be happen before. So say something comes up in a committee meeting and it has to do with something we can't talk publicly about, personnel, property ownership, different things like that. The corporation councils are go-to on what open meeting law allows to have an executive session and what needs to be talked publicly. And so we could have that executive session prior to the meeting. If there was something that you wanted to discuss, say like having to do with personnel that's on the agenda for that night, we could stop the meeting, clear the room, have the executive session, bring everyone back in. So like know that that's something, something that is there, or many times we'll put executive session at the end, like when we're talking about a contract or something, or sometimes it's an insurance settlement. And it can happen after the meeting, everybody else can go home and we can do that and then close the meeting and go on with our night. So those are like the two times that executive session can happen. Is there anything you might wanna add to executive session?
I mean, just to supplement those
Yeah.
comments, I mean, sometimes you'll encounter a situation where there's a piece of legislation on the agenda that the council's going to be voting on, and you're gonna want to go into executive session prior to the time you vote on that piece of legislation. So you can call for that executive session at the top of the meeting. You do have to start the common council meeting before we can go into executive session. But we could do the pledge of allegiance, take a roll call, and then go into executive session, for example. There are specific reasons or limited reasons that you can go into executive session. You know, if anything ever comes up, I would say the best thing that could happen is to tip me off ahead of time if someone wants to bring something in executive session so that we can dialogue about it, make sure it's something that can go into executive session. I'll have it all queued up and ready to go at the right time. So those are the situations where you're gonna wanna do it earlier in the meeting. Then there's gonna be other times where we're gonna be talking about like a piece of pending litigation. And it may drag on for a little while, and you want to let everyone else go home. So you wait till the end of the meeting and after legislation's done, and then you do the executive session before you adjourn. If you're going to be taking action on something that night, that's what would dictate it being earlier in the meeting. If you know you're not going to be taking action on it, and it's gonna be more of an update type thing, then that's the kind of thing that'd be more towards the end of the meeting. Sorry.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, I'm glad to.
Does that make sense?
Any questions for Tony on that? As I was going on and on about it, I was like, I should probably let the lawyer
I think
chime in.
everything's spot on, though, Bob. Very good.
Thank you. Yeah, so any questions on that? Take a break for the public hearing.
It's at 5:50.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, public hearing is now open. This is a Community Renewal and Community Development Block Grant Program. The City of Amsterdam received an award for $75,000 under the CDBG program to facilitate the creation and attendant job creation of the new business Mohawk Co-works LLC at 2 Guy Park Avenue, Amsterdam, New York.
Does anyone like to speak? There's no one here, so we will call the public session to a close.
Do you want me to go over it quick for our new council members?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to go over it quick for our new council members?
Absolutely.
Sorry about the time, I didn't know if the meeting changed time. So the Community Economic Development Department applies for small business grants to help small businesses in Amsterdam. They can get up to $100,000 and they get increments of $25,000 for every $25,000. One full-time equivalent job has to be made and it has to be offered to low to moderate income individuals. And they also have to have, just advertising like high school diploma only, no special experience, skills, or education. So Mohawk Co-works received $75,000 if you're familiar with building 2 Guy Park. And it's now a co-working space and they have created 3 full-time equivalent jobs. This is the end of their grant. So typically when we apply for CDBG funds, we do a public hearing in the beginning of the grant when we apply and then one to close it out. So they're finished, they've completed their project.
Thank you. Okay. How many total have we done now?
We've done 3 small business and then we also have micro enterprise, which is also CDBG. Last round was 9 awardees. This round is 11. We also have 2 other businesses in the CARES grant, which is CDBG, which we're assisting with.
So it's really been helpful. Any other questions? Thank you, Gina.
Do you need us to sign that paper or?
Stephanie will do the attendance.
Yeah,
Okay.
you also have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Drive safe.
They don't follow retention, they only track hiring. So if you hire someone for a month and then they leave, it still counts. I mean, that's not my,
Not encouraged.
that's the state's track.
All right. So we've gone over the agenda. So let's go to the committees, the review of assignments. We've got. So we put those together last meeting, and I pulled again from the language in the charter, which I included on here. So it does list the committees under B, the second to last page. I skipped, so this would be like an example of, which would fall under, I think, the procedure committee of cleaning up the charter to reflect the current phase of our lives. Bus transportation, we do not run bus transportation anymore, so we don't need to have that as a committee. There's not gonna be any capital projects or staffing levels for that. And then, so I skipped that one altogether. There's one that I've noticed is not included, which is Community and Economic Development, which was a department that has not always been sustained here and is now solid. I can say we're on solid ground, keeping an economic development office and department here in the city. So I would think that would be one that we would want to add. We renamed, I think, the solid waste and water sewer to something, to water treatment and sewer treatment, like as a more appropriate title, in our resolutions in the past, but not in the charter. And then one thing I'd like to look at too is insurance. Number 6, we used to be self-insured. The mayor and I were talking about this a little today, if we should keep this insurance committee, if they would really have anything to consider.
Anything?
That wouldn't be under finance.
Again,
Something to think about.
it is. I think, there's enough issues with insurance to make sure it's addressed. But,
Okay.
I would just hold off.
Hold off on the insurance one, yeah, so that sounds good. Are there any other things that people thought about regarding the committees, if anything should be added or removed? No? Again, we can look at this again.
So Tony, how would we update the charter? How would we do that?
I mean, there's many different ways to go about it. You can certainly modify section by section, as needed. And each one of those would be a local law that would be subject to a public hearing. Now, a different thought altogether is doing a charter revision, and having a charter revision commission, and, appointed to go through the whole charter from section 1 all the way to the end and say, well, here are the things that need to be updated. There are, because as you go through the charter, as you would go through any city's charter, you would find that there are many things that are outdated, that are not followed. For example, even in these rules where we're looking, it cites the common council meetings being the third Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never been the case since, at least I've been here since 2020. We haven't done that. So, that's just an example. And so however you wish to do it,
And then the charter.
I think, as far as in terms of what I think should be done,
Mhm.
I would say both should be done. I mean, on the short term, it seems like that this is a short-term modification to this section, that from an organizational point of view could be done in short time, make things more clarified as to what the committees are and so forth. But I do think that a charter revision is something that the city should be considering.
You think it's time for it?
When was the last time it was done?
2014,
Mm-hmm.
around there,
You ran that board, right, Chief?
I said on it. And
It all failed.
one was appointed by the council, then the mayor appointed, at the time, a different one, and there was a whole fight about that, and then when you finally got a commission in the room, they came up with 5 proposals, and I think all were defeated with the exception of one.
So none of what's even implemented into a revision of the chart.
They went to public referendum on 5 different issues.
But Tony, they didn't clear up the errors in the charter during that, as part of that?
No, it was all things of, should the controller be an appointed position or an elected position? Term limits,
Okay.
alderman at large, bringing back an older person at large, those were things that we discussed. It wasn't actually like a line by line, this is outdated, like, obviously the pigeon officer still made it, it's still in there.
Still got that pigeon
The what?
officer.
Pigeon officer. In our city charter, we have a pigeon officer. Pigeon racer used to be huge. Mayor will tell you sometime.
Yeah.
So in terms of introducing a local law to modify a particular section, we don't have to come to finality about all the revisions tonight. As long as I have revisions in time prior to a meeting to put it together, we should be fine. So I think we need to take inventory of any and all of the committees that you want to add, redact, or modify the name of, et cetera, and then introduce it as soon as possible.
Okay. Yeah, so we can continue the conversation maybe in the next meeting, especially with Alderman Marcello being absent, so everything like that. Then, doing okay on time here. I did group them together though, as far as, so the 30-minute block of time for committees. What committees would we want to meet in certain nights? And what would the expectations, or what would these committees look like? And the charter talks about committees a bit. Above it, but sometimes it's a little like, And when we get to, like the fourth to last page, you see, all requests must list the name of an appropriate sponsor, blah, 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 and then we have the numbered for the different types of agenda, the things needed on the agenda. But then you get to B, mandatory referral to committee. Requests specified below require mandatory referral to committee shall be forwarded to the appropriate committee chairman. The city clerk, after consultation with the applicable committee chairperson, will schedule a committee meeting within 2 weeks of the submission of the request. Requests that only involve budget modifications that do not alter staffing levels shall not require a mandatory referral. A request designated by the mayor as time sensitive shall not require a mandatory referral. Like, that all sounds very confusing. So I was just looking to have them kind of on a rotating basis so that if something was coming up, the department head really wanted to talk about something long-term, something really expensive, something complicated, that could be brought up in the committee. Excuse me. Also things that were of interest to the council. There's been times where we've said, oh, it'd be great to get the assessor in to talk about assessment issues. We'd really like to hear more about what the clerk does for agents for out-of-town landlords, or the vacant property registry, things like that. So if we have those types of things that those department heads could come speak to us about. I know I have to get to the point where I talk too much today. I think the I think the engineer does a good job in his memo.
You fixed that.
I did.
The paper was nice too.
Never underestimate the power of my sneakiness.
Great job. Spell carpenter wrong.
I got
And Rich just has an I, not an O.
Yep.
Yeah. 2 L's. The committee heads. This is we do the same exchange. We're just doing the different portion of the email. Saturday, you have 5 hours. Gotcha. Stay current. Educated, you want that's why.
So anyway, that's what I thought. So
Kel, can I just add one thought here?
Sure.
In terms of the presentations
you
by
can
the
talk without me
department
too.
heads. Is there any reason why we can't just make those a part of the regular council meeting? Just the presentations of the council heads, when you call them, the department heads, I'm sorry. In other words,
And the,
everything else stays the same, but when you want the department, the Community and Economic Development Department to make a presentation, do it as part of the council session versus part of the committee as a whole, so that everyone, has the opportunity to hear. And I mean, we do it now with the engineer, we do it with the controller. We could just schedule a time for that presentation as part of the actual council session. Is there any problem not doing that as a part of the, as part of this?
Yeah, what are your,
Same thing, just and it would make it more concise, and whenever we have it, put it in the meeting. It'll take place that night. Everybody prepared for questions. Any problems with that? I'm just,
yeah, utilize this part here on the agenda more. What do you think about that, Erin?
I don't have a problem with that. I think if we have questions for that specific, we can always get to them.
but you'll be able to ask
Ask
questions
them,
during
yeah.
the meeting as well. I'm
We can ask
saying do
during
the
the
same
meeting
thing.
And at any time, so
Yeah.
to present it, and then
Yeah.
even everyone has access to the information. That's fine with me.
Because with like the engineers, report, we do kind of start that with
We
the
do
committee as a
sometimes do
whole.
it in the committee of
Yeah,
the whole. We do sometimes do it as part of the council meeting. We do it because we got time left
Time
over,
left,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
When they actually changed all the meeting format. And
Yes.
From the 7 o'clock start time to 6 o'clock and got away with the committees and went with the committee of the whole, did they do it by resolution? Did we ever find that out of what they changed by resolution, or was it just unwritten? The guy who was probably gonna tell us, he was sitting here when they did it, isn't
Yeah.
here tonight.
Yeah.
well, we would have the clerk could pull it up because it was amended by, in 2015 by resolution 1415-160.
Yeah.
So I did try to look that up. We don't have that online.
Yeah, the way that E-code reads online is.
Right. So it does have what resolution amended it, so we could look at that. That's always, I tried to look at that, but it was like New Year's Eve, I think, so I wasn't gonna email the clerk for that. Yeah. I like that idea too, utilizing that a little bit more. Cause that would be something where like, okay, we're looking for information from the assessor or somebody, then we could schedule it under the presentation.
Yep.
Okay.
I think if we have, say something comes up on the agenda and we have specific questions that takes longer,
Mm-hmm.
we can ask the department head to come to our meeting and then discuss it and talk about it in depth.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't think it's something that'll happen all the time, but
No.
just,
Right.
it'll be a specific
But
item.
again, I think if you're gonna ask a department head to come and make a presentation on what their priorities are, what they're working on, things like that, we should do it as part of our regular meeting. And it's still open to questions from the council.
Okay, yeah, and then that was like one of the big pieces to why I wanted to extend the committee time was to have those kind of
Sure.
presentations. So if that could happen more often in
Yeah, I mean, the
regular
council can call
meetings.
it. You guys
Yeah.
call what you want, and we can make it part of the meeting, whenever you're ready, and we can schedule them, we can do it on a cycle, I mean, you can do whatever you'd like.
Right, okay. Cause that was definitely like a big piece of
Would
like,
you like the department heads, or, obviously I'm asking for myself, but if you're having a sewer committee meeting or water or public works, I would assume you would want me there anyway. So, I mean, it makes no difference to me, I'm prepared to talk about it whenever.
You get to come to all of them, how's that?
I'd be excited to.
Honored. Well, yeah, I mean, and that's, I grouped them in a way where, yours would be mostly on the same night. And yeah, the only people that really we'd be looking to hear more from maybe would be the Director of Recreation and the Director of Economic Development. So we could ask them to come in monthly or, however often we thought. When I got here, it's just, you were always here with your report, the controller was always here with their report, and that's just kind of how we operated. So, yeah, I didn't think about it being part of the presentation, that could work. So perhaps this might be overly complicating. the
No, I
situation.
think I just think it would, it would work, and I think it's it would fit nicely into the structure, and I think it would consolidate some stuff, so.
Yeah, okay,
I'd love to chat with you some about it afterwards. I have some ideas for
Okay.
for your consideration.
all right. Great. So I'm not sure if I was thinking, with the procedure, if the agenda comes out on Wednesday, and then we'd have the committee meetings ahead of time, week A or week B, And then if you have a question about something, you communicate with the committee chairs about any topics they'd like to bring up. But I feel like a lot of what I put here might actually just be fixed by this presentation section. I don't know.
And even in the literature that's distributed here, even when it comes to the agenda deadlines and everything, it's not what we follow. Because it calls for things to be submitted in my office on Wednesday and then to the clerk by Friday, but really, we have everything out. The agenda is published on Wednesday at 3. And for the new folks, I would just say, look, if there's anything you want to put on an agenda and you don't know how, just call me, just get a hold of me and I'll walk you through it. I'm here to help you. And, you know, the worst thing that can happen is nothing be communicated to me until a Wednesday morning before a 12 p.m. agenda deadline. And then we find there's like 5 pieces of legislation that need to be written in 3 hours. That's the dynamic I'm trying to avoid. But short of that, I'm at your service.
All right. Well, let's jump into the committee of the whole and kind of go back to committees later. We do have 2 consents to go over. I think we should go over first. The consent resolutions are put on your desk, usually prior to the meeting. It would be good if we do know that there's a consent coming through on something to kind of give everybody a heads up on it, just so they're aware of it. We've got lead lines. Oh, well, they're both under you, Mr. Clark, if you want to talk about the 2 different.
Yeah, and I apologize for coming through as consents. I ran out of time on Wednesday and didn't get them in. That's my fault. But they're pretty straightforward. The lead line, if you remember, I've talked about it way too much by now. We just completed a $521,000 grant project from Department of Health for the replacement of what totaled to be 52 lead service lines in the city. This consent resolution is just to allow us to close out the final amount. We need an additional $5,200 for doing the unforeseen subsurface conditions. There were a couple of shutoffs missing that we had to go the extra mile, so to speak, to get them replaced. So it cost us just a little bit additional, but that was the one. The second one, and that's noteworthy, is asking for a resolution to authorize the clerk to advertise for bids for a garbage packer truck. So you've all seen them, a very important pieces of equipment that we have. 2 out of the 4 packer trucks that we have are absolutely deplorable. One really is not fit for service anymore. So quickly, the background to that is any given day, any given week of for garbage collection, we need 3 packers. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, we run 2 trucks. And Wednesday, quite often, we'll run 3, and Friday, we run 3. The problem we're having is we've got a lot of age on them. The 2 of the trucks are approaching 20 years old. We have engine problems. Right now, we have one of our city-owned trucks in service. We are renting one by the month as a second, and we've borrowed one, which ultimately from City of Schenectady, which I believe is also a lease truck. So at the end of the day, we'll need to work out some arrangement with the City of Schenectady. Our 4th truck is just not fit for service. It's ready to pop. The problem with them is even if the truck body, the wheels, the tires, the motors, the brakes, the transmission, if all that's good, the packer body that does the actual work just takes an awful beating. Eventually, they will actually blow holes through the sides of that steel. That's happened to our 4th, and it's really not fit for service. my recommendation is, and I have spoken at length with the city controller about this, is we have a pretty good idea what the estimated cost of a new garbage truck is. We've talked about options to fund one. So I think I think we're at the point where we need to go out and actually take bids for them and see if the estimates are correct. Right now, for example, the one truck that we're running from a private truck rental company is costing us about $11,000 a month. That's not sustainable for an entire year, obviously. Useful life on a garbage truck is 8 to 10 years max before they really start to show their age. And normally, again, it's structurally, hydraulically, all those moving parts on them. So what I'm asking is that the council authorized, I prepared a draft bid spec for public advertising. And I'd like council's authorization to put that out on the street and take bids. Any questions, of course?
How much do you propose a new truck would cost?
$225,000. We're pretty, we've had multiple quotes, not formal bids, but we've had multiple quotes, and they're all within a few dimes of that, one side or the other.
That's
So-
a new vehicle?
A brand new vehicle.
How long would it take to get?
That's another good question. If we were to go the state contract route, which everybody used to do, we would be beyond 2 years before we actually took delivery. This route, by putting it out, one of the requirements is gonna be that we were able to take delivery in 90 days. There are, dealers that do have some on their, it's not like a used car lot or a new car lot, but they do have them, in stock. I'm hoping we could have one here by April 1st, and that's, hopefully sooner than that, but April 1st would do. Assuming everything comes together, the price is right, and we're able to, agree on how to fund it.
Pretty good turnaround.
Sure, it wouldn't be much money, but is there anything we can get back from the old truck regarding, selling the truck or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We would certainly take the oldest one, perhaps two, and so the one still has some life in it. Many smaller municipalities might actually use that as a backup or recycling or on off days or heavy days or that kind of thing. The one is borderline salvage at this point or close to it. Ultimately, like I said, on any given week, we need 3 trucks. Historically, the city's kept 4 trucks, and with the 4th one always being very beaten up, right? But because of the fact that we were not able to be on a regular replacement program, so that we had at least 2 and preferably 3, but at least 2 really serviceable late model vehicles, they always held on to the 4th vehicle. The problem is, as I've learned over the years, if you've got an old vehicle that you would normally take out of service and you replace that, but you keep the old one, what inevitably happens is that if it's in the garage, if it's made available, if it's in the fleet, it's gonna get used. And if it's gonna get used, it's gonna break. And because it's in the fleet, then the mindset becomes, well, we gotta fix it. And eventually, you're fixing and fixing and fixing something that really is not paying you back anymore, that you've taken all your money out of already. I mean, that's kind of long-winded, but ultimately, I would like to see the city in the position where we have 3 good serviceable vehicles. And knowing that that they are prone to breakdowns with all the hydraulics, there's always something that could go wrong. As long as the city has an option to go and grab from a local municipality, we've got several options at this point where we could pull one for a week or 2 weeks while we're getting a repair. I don't think we necessarily need to own 4 anymore, as long as the 3 are serviceable. And relatively late model. So, my 2 cents.
Any other questions on that? All right, the next thing regarding lead service, we already did that one. Okay, sorry about that. All right, now on to the agenda. We have a resolution from last meeting appointing the health
Yeah.
officer that will be
Dr.
Dr. Sean Ryan.
Right, exactly.
Dr. who?
Sean Ryan.
Right.
So someone make a motion to amend when we get to
It was blank, so,
legislation part.
yeah.
Okay. So we'll need to amend that.
Thank you.
Health officer,
And
I guess that
also,
goes under procedure, so I'll do that one. Mhm.
I would like to also, it says at no compensation. I would like to put as at compensation to be determined. What he's asked about is a small stipend to be donated to an organization. So we haven't discussed that, but he's agreed to accept the position. And he doesn't want any money, but he would like any compensation to be treated as a donation to a nonprofit. So I don't know how to put that, but well, he wasn't ready to discuss it, but he said, just, yes, I'm in, I want it. Any compensation you give me.
My suggestion is that we modify the resolution to insert his name, and then insert a period after the word mayor and strike the rest.
Okay. Is that okay with the council?
And then you would do a resolution in the
And then
future?
we'll do a resolution at the time.
It's gonna have to, well, more to be discussed,
Okay.
but.
Yeah, I'm sorry to throw it in there, but I didn't want to.
Funding of it, et cetera.
Yeah.
Right.
It can be dealt with in time. But that's how I suggest we deal with it for tonight.
Okay, so we'll amend it by putting Dr. Ryan in and eliminating that last part of that sentence.
Right, period after mayor, strike the rest of the sentence.
Okay. And you said the majority of the work is done at the county level anyway with the health department?
Yes, this
And the
is,
state, really?
I guess by law, we need to have this, and I had just not been able to ask him. I hadn't reached out to him last meeting. He didn't get back to me.
Okay. All right, then we adopt the minutes from the last company council meeting. Everyone received those from Stephanie. Any issues with those? The next one, water treatment plant chemical bids by Alderman Carpenter. Says that we're just authorizing to prepare specifications and advertise for bids.
Standard operating procedure.
Nice, easy one, get your feet.
A new vehicle for APD, Alderman Collins.
Would like to purchase a used vehicle with drug seizure funds. 100% of those drug seizure funds that we've accumulated over the years.
Excellent. Would it be a patrol car or do you have a
Detective vehicle.
detective vehicle? All right, any other questions out of that? Okay. And then approving the audit, Alderman
Audit
Collins.
is fine. And I just wanna let the new councilwoman know that these bills sit here and you can go look at them at any time you want, but after I do the audit, because I don't like messy papers. And you're not supposed to take them away, but you can look at them, and if you have any questions, you can speak to them.
Yeah, that might be a fun committee topic one day, because I've never really ventured into the pile of bills myself either.
It looks pretty
Whatever one you
intimidating.
pick, you gotta pay. Whatever one you pick, you gotta pay.
Oh, that's why I stay over here. All right,
All right,
almost to 6:30.
a few minutes to 6:30. Any other questions, thoughts? Mike, it's only a few minutes, or I'd let you go early, but we'll just hold on. We had a really nice Soup Fest weekend. 21 participating restaurants and 1,500 votes on the soups. But there were thousands of people from our city and outside our city, visiting our city, and just a great event. I thanked our sponsors. I thanked the rec department, the marketing department did an outstanding job of publicity. It was plastered. I saw it on every TV station. a nice follow-up article today, so, but it was just a great day in the city. A lot of people enjoyed it, and, the weather cooperated, and, it was a great event, so. I didn't get a chance to get out there this year, but I heard the soups were good. Chris, did you go?
They were.
Yeah.
They
What
were.
was your favorite? Go ahead, tell
Believe it or not, Gujas.
me. Yeah.
A lot of
Gujas.
people
It
said
was
that.
Riggy's, and being from Rome originally, where, Rome, Utica, where Riggy's are, popular.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice, it was a nice change.
Yeah, but the
You
places,
can only eat too much Italian wedding soup. You need something different every now and then.
but the places you went were all crowded and
All of
everybody
them,
having a great time.
all of them. And it wasn't just that, but it was extremely windy. It was a little chilly, but there were still people walking all over the place. It was
Yeah.
nice to see.
CDTA was out, did you?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a nice event, Why don't we stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderwoman Quist Morris? Here. Alderman Holliday? Here. Alderwoman Collins?
Here.
Alderman Carpenter?
Here.
And Alderman Monticello?
Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion
Consents?
to adopt the
Two
agenda with
consents.
2 consents. Alderwoman Quist Morris? Aye. Alderman Holliday?
Aye.
Alderwoman Collins?
Aye.
Alderman Carpenter?
Aye.
There are no proclamations, and we have no communications or presentations this evening, and that brings us to the public participation section of our meeting. So if there's anyone in the public who would like to talk, you just come to the podium, state your name and address. You have a 5-minute limit. Be happy to listen to what you have to say tonight.
Hi, I'm Tina Garcia. I am a student at Fundamental High School, and I am here for my public meeting. So I just have a question for the council. Is everyone in attendance here, an important, part of running the city, or are there people like possibly not here who have an important role?
Okay, I should have told, we knew you were coming tonight, so we're gonna let them ask us some questions and we're gonna answer, okay? So we'll just make sure of that. So your question is, everyone here?
In charge of like running the city, or are there people who aren't here tonight who have a role on the side?
Well, we have the aldermen, the council, common council, you see, 4 of us, 4 of these members are members of the common council. They represent various areas of our city. I'm the mayor and I'm an elected official. Okay, and everyone else here is an appointed official or a hired official. We have our corporation counsel. He's our legal counsel. He tells us if what we're doing is legal or not. We have our city clerk, who's responsible for, every kind of documentation we have. She puts these agendas together. And she runs the clerk's office. It's where you go get your licenses and things like that. We have our police and fire chief here, and you know what they do, right? They run the police and fire department, and we have our city engineer over here. So it's basically,
Control. And control.
and I didn't forget her, but I did forget you. I'm sorry, Louise. Louise is our controller and she keeps track of the money. Okay?
So it's called the Common Council because you have your executive branch, your mayor, and your legislative branch interacting together. So it's the Common Council. Get it?
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hi, I'm Anthony Fox. I'm also a student found in Fultonville Central High School, and I'm also here for my public meeting. I do have a question about salvaging the Packer trucks and what that could, what monetary amount that could possibly yield.
Mike, could I answer that question?
The oldest Packer truck, that is in terrible condition. If we got $6,000 to $8,000 for it, it would be a miracle. The next one above that's probably worth 15 to 18,000, for a small community that needs a backup.
And typically we
So if you
auction it
know
off.
anybody, I'll give you a number.
Would we auction it off or would we put it up
I
for
think,
sale?
I think we would probably go through our surplus vehicle process.
Are you looking for it?
Yeah.
That was-
All right. Thank you very much.
It'd be pretty
Anyone
cool to
else
drive to
tonight?
school, though.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, wait, someone else.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Hi, I'm Morgan Estrada. I grew up here. These are my kids. Just a quick question. What do you feel is one of the most pressing issues that you're dealing with at the start of 2024? Because I know that we all sit, we have our resolutions and we all sit and we have our things and we all know what we need and what comes up and what breaks and what pops up. You know what I mean? We know. But if you had to pick a big issue that you really wanted to tackle this year, what do you think it would be?
Yeah. There's a lot of them.
I know.
You know, we do, no, we definitely have a lot of issues. But, you know, housing is a big one this year.
Okay.
Making sure we have enough housing for the people who live here and want to live here.
Yes.
DRI is a big issue this year. We have some major projects in our downtown revitalization, which we've now finally got funded and we need to get them going. And our finances are always a big issue. We know we have to be able to pay the bills. And the city's doing a lot of things that require a lot of money. And so, you know, that's a big issue. But I'm going to be making a state of the city next week, and we're going to go all through those priorities. What do you think is the biggest issue?
I'd probably say finances.
Finances, yeah.
I think
Always a big
finances
issue.
are number one,
Mm-hmm.
and which hence is connected to the housing. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that live here that want to invest here,
Mm-hmm.
and there are many that don't live here that have invested here. And we need to find that balance,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of things going on that are out of our control because they don't live here and deal with the issues that it produces.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Anything
you.
else? Thank you. Okay, we are now at the controller's report. Louise?
Kind of essentially already given it, but just as a reminder, this is the, what things look like halfway through the fiscal year. I did attempt to look up the sales tax collections for you, but that report has not been released yet. It should be coming out in the next couple of
Okay.
weeks. That's something that was eager to, lay eyes on. Nothing unusual or unexpected, going on here. Everything's aligned with where we should be, I think, this part of the year. Any questions?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that you'd like to share, some of the projects you're working on, but I can't think of anything that we haven't talked about. Any other questions for the controller? Okay. Then we're on to the old business, and we do have an item, an old business. It's a resolution from last week. We did not have the name of Dr. Ryan at that time, and so we need to amend this, so we're gonna ask someone.
All right.
Make a
so
motion to
I'd like
amend?
To make a motion to amend this to fill in Dr. Sean Ryan as the doctor on the blank line. And then I would like to place a period after mayor and cross out the final piece of that sentence. No compensation, ...
Okay, any
Okay.
questions on the proposed amendment? Okay,
Okay, on that amendment, Alderwoman Quistamars,
Aye.
Alderman Holliday,
Hi.
Alderwoman Collins,
Aye.
Alderman Carpenter.
Aye.
Would you like me to read the whole resolution?
Sure.
Okay. Resolution 2324-132, resolution appointing health officer by full council. Resolved, Dr. Sean Ryan, having been nominated by Mayor Sid Quanti, is hereby approved as health officer pursuant to Article, 14, Section Z81 of City Charter to serve coterminously with the mayor.
So moved.
Thank you. Alderwoman Quistamars?
Any
Aye.
discussion?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, any discussion?
I just
I know.
know Sean.
It's you.
S-E-A-N,
S-E-A.
for him, yeah. I'm pretty sure. Any other discussion?
okay.
All right, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Quistamars?
Aye.
Alderman Holliday?
Aye.
Alderwoman Collins?
Aye.
Alderman Carpenter?
Aye.
Resolution 2324-147, resolution adopting the minutes of the last common council meeting by Alderman Marticello. Resolved, the minutes of the common council regular meeting meeting on January 1st, 2024 are hereby adopted.
So moved.
For discussion? I would encourage, if we're gonna do that, I would encourage to get used to the phrase, someone please. I'll move it for discussion. And then you're instantly into discussion because we don't have a second in this council.
True,
okay?
yeah.
So if the mover says, I'll move it for discussion, now we're instantly into a discussion period. You have an opportunity to have your discussion. If there's a pregnant pause and there's no one that speaks, then the sponsor would say, call the roll. Okay?
I like that,
That's
yeah.
just food for thought and my suggestion, but I think that's how you would move most expeditious move forward.
I like it.
Okay, I'll move it for discussion.
Nicely said.
Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderwoman Christopher Morris.
Aye.
Alderman Holliday.
Aye.
Alderwoman Collins.
Aye.
And Alderman Carpenter.
Aye.
Resolution 2324-148, resolution authorizing bids, water treatment plant chemicals by Alderman Carpenter.
So move.
For discussion.
For discussion.
Move it to discussion. Thank you. Anybody have any question?
So you can tell the clerk to call the roll.
Call the roll.
Alderman Carpenter.
Aye.
Alderwoman Christopher Morris.
Aye.
Alderman Holliday.
Aye.
And Alderwoman Collins.
Aye.
Resolution 2324-149, resolution authorizing purchase of vehicle APD by Alderwoman Collins.
Just read the result.
Resolved, the controller is authorized to fund this purchase through the use of fund balance in the amount of $29,046 to be paid out of CM 31204000.
So moved for discussion. Any questions? Call the roll.
Alderwoman Collins.
Aye.
Alderman Carpenter.
Aye.
Alderwoman Quist Morris.
Aye.
Alderman Holliday. Resolution 2324-150, resolution approving the audit by Alderwoman Collins. Resolved, the bills and documentation of same presented in pre-check writing report parameter dated January 16, 2024 to the common council and affirmed by the controller as corrected to be paid. The city clerk is authorized and empowered to issue warrants in payment of the same.
So moved for discussion. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Alderwoman Collins.
Aye.
Alderman Carpenter.
Aye.
Alderwoman Quist Morris.
Aye.
Alderman Holliday.
Aye.
Resolution 2324-151, consent resolution authorizing transfer of funds, lead service line replacement project by Alderman Carpenter.
So move for discussion. Any questions?
Just, this is a great, project this year. And, hopefully we can continue it.
Call the roll.
Alderman Carpenter.
Aye.
Alderwoman Quist Morris.
Aye.
Alderman Holliday.
Aye.
And Alderwoman Collins.
Aye.
Resolution 2324-152, consent resolution authorizing bids for garbage packer truck by Alderman Marticello. Whereas the city of Amsterdam has an aging fleet of 4 garbage packer trucks to perform the sanitation duties of Department of Public Works. Whereas 3 or 4 vehicles are currently out of service requiring major repairs. Whereas the city is currently renting 2 packer trucks to perform the sanitation dues of DPW. And whereas the city engineer has prepared bid specifications for a new garbage packer truck to replace the least serviceable vehicle in the sanitation fleet. Now therefore be it resolved, the city clerk is authorized to advertise publicly for bids for a new garbage packer truck.
I'll move it for discussion. All right, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Quist Morris.
Aye.
Alderman Holliday.
Aye.
Alderwoman Collins.
Aye.
Alderman Carpenter.
Aye.
All set?
Mike, I would love to, but no, you folks have my, report before you. We talked about the garbage truck, Corner's demolition, we're wrapping up with some, hauling out and cleanup still to do. We're gonna bring in some clean fill. If you remember from a few weeks ago, the Lion Street drainage issue, when we had all that rain, we do have a shallow stone line swale in to deal with the fact that the original drainage in that area, which ran through the basement of the Pasco Mill building, is partially collapsed. We can't clear it. It's under millions of pounds of concrete rubble. This was the cleanest and surest way to deal with heavy stormwater runoff. I met with DEC on it last week, and they were fine because I didn't penetrate the barrier. Although, if anybody recalls that when that project was completed, it was done as part of a brownfield. And as a result, at the end of the cleanup, there's an environmental easement held on the property by New York State DEC, where below a barrier cap of couple of feet of clean soil, no one's allowed to penetrate. I didn't do it when I put the drainage in there. It's just a shallow, really a shallow ditch with stone. But DEC wants to see Sticker Mule give the city a drainage easement, which I think is a good idea. Also, in other news, Tri-State Clearing finally has started a raw water transmission line clearing. They're working from south to north. If you're across Miami Ave, Wallens Corners, Maple Ave, you will likely see them here in the next couple of days, and they're gonna work their way north from there. And the biggest item I wanted to get to today, I just want to draw your attention to the third sheet in my report. This is a draft. It's a starting point for our 2024 street paving program. It's not the be all and end all. Ultimately, the common council and mayor are gonna have the final say on what's in there for folks that haven't done this before. So we fund, there's 5 or 6 different essentially grants from New York State DOT, which we all lump together to call CHIPS. Last year, that amount was $2.117 million. The year before was $1.77 million. The year before that was 1.7. The year before that, it was about 670,000. I have not heard in my contacts with DOT that the number's gonna go down. This past year, they surprised us and bumped it up an additional 300,000 without any, which not a bad situation to be in, but we didn't know that was coming. That number won't be finalized until the state budget passes, ideally, middle of April, right? So I would not ever want to commit to a paving program, in other words, award a contract until we have, we know what our final number is for our CHIPS allocation for the 2024 construction season. But on the flip side, because the funding amounts have increased by a factor of more than 3 in the last 4 years, again, that's a good thing. It means we can do a heck of a lot more streets, but we can't start middle of the summer or late summer and expect to get it done. This past year, as an example, it was a very wet summer. It was on again, off again in terms of when we could have the contractor pave. Ideally, I would like to see our paving begin as early as possible in May. In order to do that, if you back that up, I really need to go to bid, advertise for bids. Then get your authorization to do that, the first meeting in March. Take that back a step further. I ask that you folks take a look at, and again, this is just a draft, mark it up any way you want, add to it. If you look right now, our estimate based on last year's prices, and with adjustments for fuel and asphalt, we're projecting that what's here in this tentative starting point is about 1.8. Take a look at the streets in your ward. I'm sure it's something you folks will hear 3 days a week, right? This or that, or that street's terrible, or there's severe potholes. It may not have to be the whole street. It can be one block. It can be whatever, but all I would ask is take this sheet out of my report, rip it off, and if you have ideas, if you have notes, mark it on it and get it back to me here in a couple of weeks, if that's possible, or by the end of the month kind of thing, to give us more time to reorganize our program.
Can you just explain the 10-year rule for paving?
Yes, and that's an excellent point, Irene. So when we file for reimbursement for CHIPS quarterly, which is very handy because in a summer-long paving program like this past year, we were actually able to get 2 reimbursement cycles and get almost $1.5 million back before we completed the program, which certainly is very helpful, keeping cash flow going in the right direction. But one of the things we have to do I have to certify that reimbursement, and the key thing that DOT is looking for is that I'm certifying that these streets have not been paved in the previous 10 years, and that the pavement that we put down on them, the money we expended, will last at least 10 years. I'm confident that anything that we do is gonna last well beyond 10 years. The problem we've got is we have streets, especially in some of the residential districts, where some of the pavement is 20 plus. That's too long. We've really made a good dent in turning that around. A couple more years funded at the level that we are now, and we'll actually be ahead of the game, knock on wood, if you ever could be. But if a street was paved 8 years ago, I can't put it on this year's program or for next year either. So it has to be not paved in the last 10 years that you know of. And we do have a running list if you have any questions. So.
Yeah, and the important point is in your wards to make sure that, you go through your ward and make sure that there's no street that isn't on this list that is really in bad shape. And get it in because, we really try to pick these streets based upon this, how bad they are and how much they're used. And if something needs to push something off this list, it's gonna be up to you. And we'll travel the city. We do every year.
We do every
And
year.
we'll look at every one of them. But, the guidance comes from you guys.
And with the last 2 years that I've been on, I've noticed like the thoughtful progression of the streets. Like 2 years ago, Locust and Clisby got paved to like a certain point and everybody was complaining. But in the next year, they continued it to the end. Like there was part of the plan. And I see that here as well. Like there's this last piece of Crescent that needs to be done. He's got that on there. Logistically, there's those pieces as well. There's some streets on here that I put in 2 years ago that are now on, and because it makes logistical sense. So it's like never forgotten if you put in a street that doesn't make it this round. But I'm sure like looking back in the last few years might be helpful too.
That is a very good point. We do, if we have to make a cutoff somewhere, remember, these are unit price jobs, so as we near the end of the paving program, the numbers may run under. That's what we're shooting for. But if we're close, we may have to cut a street off, or we may cut it off at the beginning. We take those ones that were not able to make the previous years that really came from you folks and said that you wanted these on the street of the mayor, and I rode these streets and looked and said, yeah, they should be on, and it didn't make it the previous year. Make every effort to try and roll them into this year.
So why would, so I understand this, why would Fruman stop at Edwards and not continue up the Crane? Because on that particular street, they've been doing a ton of work.
That's
And I drive up that street all the time, so my car is always going in grooves and it annoys me. So I'm sure it annoys everybody else.
I wanted to do the entire thing. In recent conversations, so to your point, Chris, Ward 5 had a lot of deferred streets in the last couple of years because National Grid did so much gas line replacement that we had to kick a few off for a year and in some of them 2 years. And Roman, we wanted to get the entire thing because it certainly could be, but they still have additional work that they have to do. The last thing I want to do is expend city money that we're only going to get once every 10 years and then have them dig through it, later in that season or the following year.
So this would be a situation where if all else goes the way it should, the following year it'll get on the list for that last.
That's exactly what we're doing. You would try and where you want to get to is so that you have a complete run and it's not just a patchwork of, this block here and that block there. It just doesn't make sense. And ultimately it's difficult to track. National Grid may defer, and in the last 4 years, we've had multiple meetings a year. As a matter of fact, I've got one this Friday with them to talk about what they've got lined up for their gas line work this year. And I will say there's been 4 or 5 instances in the last couple where I've said, no, you are not doing that project this year because we just did those 2 streets that you're talking about 2 years ago. So give it a few, please. Let people enjoy some brand new pavement. I'm not saying that the restoration isn't good, but it's not as smooth as brand new asphalt. Right? And your point is well taken about Roman. I want to do the entire thing all the way up, but right now
Well, I understand. It's just, to me, it's such a short stretch, from that street to Crane. I wanted to ask.
The company's coming back next year to dig that, right? They probably have more gas lines to dig up on that section.
They do.
They cold patch the bottom of Berlin today, do you
They
know?
they've got, yeah, there's cold patch all over that, and they know they're on the hook to, as you know, that cold patch is not gonna last until,
No, I saw a
April
plug, I saw a
15th.
plug over today and dragged half of it up the hill.
it will. And that's the problem with them doing this work. But, we're working more closely with them than we ever have. And you kind of got to in this city where we've got everything underground is aging. And, you know, I won't even make the old joke about how you can tell you where the water line will break this year because we just paved it.
Well, don't jinx it.
I know, I won't make that joke, but,
Mike, is the lighting project using that storage area down on Front Street?
they have 4 or 5 Connex boxes
Okay, I
in
was
there that
wondering,
are locked.
okay,
So I believe they've got hardware in there already.
okay, just checking on that. Anything else, Michael?
I hit the high spots, Mayor.
Thank you, Mike.
Just before we adjourn, there is a Winterfest coming up on Saturday, January 27th, before our next meeting. That is going to be at Veterans Field. It begins at noon. That's sponsored by Alpenhaus. It's going to open up our skating rink for the winter. If this weather holds, it's been canceled for the last 2 years. We could have called it the Soup Festival because the ice turned to soup. It was so warm. But now we are going to have one, and hopefully the weather will hold off. It's going to be a great event. For the kids, they're going to be provided with skates. And we're gonna have hot dogs and hamburgers. So that's Saturday, January 27th, before our next meeting. So talk that up if you could. And then the first week in February, just before our meeting, A Taste of Amsterdam begins, where every restaurant will be serving a special for 1885. Why, you ask? Because that was the year our city was founded in 1885. So for $18.85, everybody's gonna create a special for that amount of money. I just want you guys to be aware of that for our next meeting as well. Any other questions?
I'd like to recognize someone, of part of the DPW, the sewer guys. We had a main drain issue in one of my constituents' homes on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Sunday. So you guys know Ed, Derek, and Brian all came by and spent hours
Nice.
trying to help this individual. I just think it's a super special thing, what we do as a city. And I know a lot of other cities don't do that. A huge help, and I just wanted them to be recognized.
Thank you very much, Alden.
Yeah,
Pass it on.
great.
Anything else? All right, everyone, have a good evening. Thank
I'd
you
like
very
to make a
much.
motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Alderwoman Quist-Mars.
Aye.
Alderman Holliday.
Aye.
Alderwoman Collins.
Aye.
Alderman Crumpton.
And Kelly, thank you very much for doing what you did today.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and I like that idea of the presentation.
Can I call it a French drain, or is that?
So I think maybe
Shallow.
I'll send